one, this, again, I'm going to fill in that chart because for me, that's just a lot easier. So I'm going to square all my numbers. And then I'm just going to kind of go through how to fill out the chart. And if you are struggling, there are some more notes that you could be watching a video of. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at 1 and see if it's a perfect square. I know if it's a perfect square when I take the square root of it, that it is equal to what, to a number that's just an integer. And it's also on this list. So a 4 is a perfect square, a 9, a 16, a 25. All those are perfect squares. So in this case, yes, the square root of 1 is a perfect square. I don't need to fill out any of this information over here because it's a perfect square. The square root of 2 is not a perfect square. And so then I'm going to look and say, nope. But I know it's between 1 squared and 2 squared. So I'm going to say it's between 1 and 2. And it's closer to 1 because if I look between the 1 and 4, 2 is closer to 1 than it is to 4. I'm going to estimate, what do I think it is? I know it's 1 point something. It's always going to be that smaller number. And then typically, if it's going to be closer to that first number, I might do 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, something less than 0.5. If it was in the middle or I thought it was pretty close to the middle, I'd do a 0.5. If I thought it was closer to the other side, I think it would be like 1.6, 1.7, depending again. So you're just going to guess. So I'm going to say I think it's 1.2. And then I'm going to go ahead and type it into my calculator to figure out what is the square root of 2. And so I'll type that in, and I get 1.414. And then that line is all done. So it doesn't matter like if these are further apart. It's just, this is just your estimate. And then this is just your actual to kind of help you figure those out. So I just want to do a couple more, and then you're just finishing up this sheet. So I want to be able to see my chart. So let's do the square root of 22. It's not a perfect square, so I'm going to say no. And I know it's not a perfect square. All right, that one's going to be a little hard. It's too low to the bottom. I know it's not a perfect square because one of those numbers is not listed on my chart. But 22, I can tell, is between 16 and 25. So that means the square root of 22 has to be somewhere between 4 and 5. So when it's asking me between which two perfect squares, it's going to be between 4 and 5. And then it asks which one it's closer to. So if I look, 22 is going to be closer to 25 than it is to 16. So I'm going to say it's closer to the 5. It's still going to be 4 point something. It's just going to be a higher number. So I'm going to guess 4.7. It's more than halfway. And then I just take the square root of 22 and I got 4.690. So I was pretty close. I'm just putting those out to 3 decimals. You can put them to tenths. It's just a way to kind of check and see if you're understanding those. So hopefully you're understanding how you're filling out this chart and what it is you're doing. And if you have more questions, stop in for a Google Meet.